Have you ever wondered why we make decisions that destroy us? Why, even when we know what's best for us, we choose the opposite path? So, what are the harsh truths about human nature? Many things probably come to mind. Concepts like greed, selfishness, or jealousy. And while these are true to some extent, according to Dostoevsky, human nature is far more complex than we tend to assume. Some aspects of it may even sound absurd or foolish, yet they remained undeniably true. In Notes from Underground, Dostoevsky's philosophical novel, he explores the thoughts and experiences of an unnamed narrator, often referred to as the underground man. The book delves into themes of isolation, alienation, and the conflicts between reason and emotion. The narrator critiques society, rejects conventional morality, and reflects on his own inner torment and self-loathing, ultimately questioning human nature and the search for meaning in life. While this character is undoubtedly controversial and extreme in many ways, we can also see how ordinary he is. He's not a great hero, leader, or powerful figure. He's simply an ordinary man, most at war with himself. Each of us seeks success, peace, and stability. These aspirations are natural and understandable, and we should strive for them. They are essential not only for individuals but for society as a whole. They satisfy the rational side of our nature. However, Dostoevsky argues that this is not something we truly desire, or at least not the only thing we desire. He speaks of the contradictory nature of man, which at one moment drives us to do what is good for us, and at another pushes us toward chaos and destruction, which are for some reason equally important to us. The underground man in the book says the following: "You see, gentlemen, reason is an excellent thing. There is no disputing that. But reason is nothing but reason, and satisfies only the rational side of man's nature, while will is a manifestation of the whole life, that is, of the whole human life, including reason and all the impulses. And although all life in this manifestation of it is often worthless, yet it is life and not simply extracting square roots." The common belief is that people simply act in their self-interest, to elevate themselves or gain better position. But if we think about it more deeply, even in our own lives, it's clear that this is far from true. We could even say that at times we behave as if what is against our interest is actually in our interest. Ask yourself, how many times have you knowingly stayed up all night, even though you had an important day ahead? How many times have you said something you didn't mean just to provoke an argument? Or gave in to the bad habits again and again? That contradiction, that's what makes us human. You wanted to steer the waters, to introduce chaos, to feel excitement, to have fun, even knowing it might cost you something. You simply couldn't resist the forbidden fruit. And one of the most fundamental reasons for this is humanity's desire for freedom. On one hand, we are slaves to our instincts and needs, complex chemical processes within us. On the other hand, through our actions, we consciously seek to deny this fact. We want to experience our freedom, and we achieve that by rebelling against the very mechanisms which are designed to protect and encourage our growth. Humans are not robots. We don't strive solely for peace and stability. In fact, it's our disdain for excessive comfort that drives us forward. We choose chaos because in it we prove we are alive. Essentially, humans don't create misery for themselves simply because they enjoy misery, but because it stands in opposition to what we are supposed to strive for. The story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden is one of the ancient myths that symbolizes such desires. Even though they had everything they could wish for in the garden, They reached for what they weren't supposed to have, what was forbidden, precisely because it was forbidden. So we can say that humans have two natures, or perhaps even more. If we want to live fulfilled lives, we must first understand these aspects of ourselves. However, we must also be aware that this understanding doesn't necessarily lead to happiness. Perhaps in some twisted way, human happiness lies precisely in human misery. Dostoevsky poses the following question: and why are you so firmly, so triumphantly convinced that only the normal and the positive, in other words, only what is conducive to welfare, is for the advantage of man? Is not reason in error as regards advantage? Does not man perhaps love something besides well-being? Perhaps he is just as fond of suffering. Perhaps suffering is just as great a benefit to him as well-being. Man is sometimes extraordinarily, passionately in love with suffering, and that is a fact. There is no need to appeal to universal history to prove that. Only ask yourself if you are a man and have lived at all. As far as my personal opinion is concerned, to care only for well-being seems to me positively ill-bred. Whether it's good or bad, it is sometimes very pleasant, too, to smash things. In Notes from Underground, Dostoevsky offers us a character who embodies human contradiction. He is educated, thoughtful, yet simultaneously destructive. He doesn't seek happiness. He seeks to prove that he is not merely a mechanical puppet of reason. And this makes us wonder, is freedom worth the pain that comes with it? Ultimately, it seems that humans need problems, and with them, suffering. Without them, it's as we would have nothing to do. Life, in its simplest sense, is about killing boredom. How do you think modern civilization developed? It certainly wasn't because our ancestors lived comfortably and happily. But what does humanity do when there are no problems to solve? As we see today, it creates problems intentionally. Comfort, as appealing as it may seem, is equally repellent and destructive. It cannot satisfy us, thus humanity gladly creates problems it can solve, even if it comes at a cost. Dostoevsky wrote the next: and that is not all, even if men really were nothing but a piano key, even if this were proved to him by natural science and mathematics, even then he would not become reasonable, but would purposely do something perverse out of simple ingratitude, simply to gain his point. And if he does not find means, he will contrive destruction and chaos, will contrive sufferings of all sorts, only to gain his point. He will launch a curse upon the world, and as only man can curse, it is his privilege, the primary distinction between him and other animals. Maybe by his curse alone he will attain his object, that is, convince himself that he is a man and not a piano key. In the end, perhaps the greatest irony of human existence is that we find happiness precisely in misery. Without suffering, there is no movement. Without chaos, there is no freedom. And perhaps it is in this contradiction that we find the answer to the question: what does it mean to be human? Are we ready to accept this complexity and use it as a driving force for a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us?